Hi, and welcome back if you were with us last week. And if you're new, welcome as well. I'm here with Dave. This is episode 3 already. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So here we are. And, I just want to start with a little rant. I went on Facebook today and somebody had tagged me like in a post, which was really positive and really sweet and really nice. And then there's, that one guy. And I know not to read these comments, but I got to tell you something. It sort of brought up, I'm not going to give him the play by mentioning his name or anything like that, or even what he said. He's too big of a tool. But I just have to say, this is a kind of a topic that I was discussing with somebody the other day, and it's not talked about enough. And I think it's really important because when actors or when somebody is in acting and someone does acting jobs, if they then choose to go into another field or start doing something else, people immediately say it's because they can't get work. And it's such a pet peeve of mine, because in any other industry, in any other field, when somebody says, I found something else I'm passionate about, I found something else I want to explore, or I'm going to invest in this company, anything like that, everybody's like, that's amazing, and full support, and amazing. But when somebody who's been on a TV show changes their mind or decides to explore some other passion they might have, it's because they failed somehow. And I just wanted to bring that up because I want people to think about that for a second. That is the stupidest, most ridiculous comment. And it's like, yes, some actors do struggle and the work is not consistent. Those paychecks are not consistent. That's why it's the arts. That's why you're a starving artist. You do it for the passion and the love. You don't necessarily do it to have a steady income. That's not what it's about. And so when you do other jobs, most actors are in service. They're in the service industry. And once actors make some money, they usually go into another industry as well. And I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't think it's talked about enough. People are not has-beens, and people are not failures or unable to get work just because they choose to follow another path. Like, I know that's a big concept. But.
Well, from the outside looking in, it always seems like people don't understand. You don't control it. Whether it's you or another actor, it doesn't matter. You don't control a lot of times. Let's say, you or friends want to work, and there are 92% of the people in Los Angeles who want to be actors and believe they're qualified to be actors. It's not like they're turning roles down and saying, I'm good, I'm not going to do this. It's the offer has to come. And
that's
amazing.
Not necessarily true either. There's a lot of actors that really stick to their guns into projects that they believe in. You would be surprised how many things are turned down. And some people, like myself, choose not to pursue it at all for periods of time. It's a labor of love, and you have to really, really enjoy it. This is not as glamorous as people make it seem. In order to work 16 hours a day and be happy to be there, and basically that project owns you for that period of time, you have to give up everything else in your life. You have to be passionate about the project. You really do. Something has to be drawing you there. And there are actors that turn gigs down. There really are. And, I don't know. I just had to get that off my chest because it just bugs me. And I see so many people who, also there's people who live their life doing something else and then get into acting later in their life. There's nothing wrong with any of it.
Yeah.
Just lay off people. It's just ridiculous. And you sound stupid.
All right, so let me ask you, as someone who is, again, I've never gone to an audition, but again, I'm a huge fan of movies and television. So you always hear people that, again, they were in the school play of Oklahoma, and then all of a sudden they graduate high school and they said, I'm going to LA and I'm going to make my dreams come true. And then they go to Los Angeles, and you always hear about their waiters or waitresses, and they're going through audition after audition after audition, and you're trying to get that spot. In your situation, do you almost feel like you jumped to the front of the line and didn't even know it because you were a child actor? It was your mom, and it was someone that discovered you and said, we're going to give this person an opportunity to get their foot in the door, when I'm sure you've seen tons of people going, man, that person's very talented, but they've never landed a role.
Yeah, this is true. And, although I have done some of the auditioning process, you're right. And I was very fortunate and very privileged. And it's funny because I was reading some of the comments from viewers, and it said something about who else did I audition for Charles in Charge with, and who did I audition with at Baywatch? And I was like, I didn't audition for either of them. So to answer your question, yes, I was lucky. There are tons of things I did audition for. There are tons of things I did, and but those I didn't. And it is what it is. I'm not gonna take away from myself, but auditioning is hard, and it's very different than acting. They're two totally different beasts, because auditioning, especially back in the day, you had to run around all over town. You're like trying to learn your lines, trying to find parking, fighting traffic, getting lost, using a Thomas guide because there was no navigation, and now it's at home and on tape. You tape yourself, or you go to a place and they tape you. So it's drastically different, and some love it, some hate it. It's definitely changed, and I've never done that yet. I am toying with the idea, and because it seems fun to me. It seems fun to be able to do it at home or at a friend's studio or something. It takes something. It takes a lot of the nerves out of it, I think, and it's tough. It's really tough. Yeah, you have to fight. You have to do it because you love it, not because you think that this is gonna, feed you and your family for the rest of your life.
Can you go through what is that process like for the people who are auditioning, or the people who have the dream of one day saying, I know I could do it, and one day I'm going to make a run at it, whether it's a high school kid who's watching this right now and saying, I'm going to follow my dream, and I'm going to go to LA, and I'm going to live that life that looks so great on television, what the process is. Because for me, the only thing I can relate it to is like the movie La La Land, where you're seeing how you have these girls that live in an apartment that are all trying to make it and get their break, and what the process is as far as where do you find out where to go for an audition? How many people usually are in a room, and when it's your turn to audition, is the casting director even paying attention to you?
Okay, yes and no to all of that. Obviously everyone is different. Every audition is different. Every casting director is, holds their castings differently. Now, like I said, everything is self-tape. You put yourself on tape and you send it in. Back in the day, you would have to walk into a room. Usually the first audition was just you and the casting director. Then if you got called back, it would be for you and the producers, maybe the director. And you could have a number of callbacks, or sometimes you get booked right off your first audition. There's no science to this. There's no formula. It's not cut and dry. It's very different. And if somebody wants to do it, I say you go for it. You believe in yourself. You have to be in class. I mean, you have to be doing the fun side of acting, because when you get here and your wake up call is like, oh my gosh, I have to pay how much in rent, and I have to pay how much for pictures, my headshots, and you have to pay to be on the tape, and there's so much expense, and you're not going to make any money. You have to make sure you're doing the fun part, which is like being in class and acting and being with fellow actors and that sort of thing, in my opinion, to keep that passion alive, because otherwise it can become daunting and discouraging really quickly. But like anything else, you have to work really hard. You have to believe in it and believe in yourself, and crazier things have happened. So you do what you love.
Nicole, when you say being in class, do you mean like a local acting class, someone who's going to basically expand your range, or improv? What kind of class are you talking about?
Whatever you can find, do it. It's amazing. And the other thing I would say is, when you do get in the class, listen. You're there to learn. You're there to think outside your own box and outside your own head. It's something in class that I always find fascinating. Is it's expensive, right? And you spend a lot. Class is long. You can spend a good 4 or 5 hours in there, and the actors are like arguing with the with the acting coach. And I'm like, well, why are you here? If you don't want to try it their way, you don't want to try it a
Yeah.
different way, and you're convinced your way is the only way and the right way, what are we doing? Like, this is so boring. So, you have to definitely go in willing to experiment, daring to suck, and, just, yeah, getting outside your own head and just having a good time with it.
Yeah, I'm always curious to know. I've always said before to you, I don't think on the show, but privately, I've always said I was always so shy as a kid. And when I was in middle school, they would say, you should be in the school play, or high school, you should be in the school play. And I just didn't have the guts to do it. It just seemed such a big fear to get up and perform in front of people. And now as an adult, it doesn't feel that way. But as a kid, I just couldn't do it. And then when I watch people complete a play and the rush they got and the idea of that was so much fun, I want to continue doing it. I understand why people say I can make it. I enjoy this so much. I want to do something I love to do in life. I'm going to make the trip to LA and possibly do it with you. And again, you discovered that, they put you on TV very quickly at an early age, and you've gone into adulthood on television. For you, was there ever a situation where you felt like I'm starting to be typecasted? Like they look at me as this person and not as someone for my acting skills?
I think we already talked about this, but I think that the first time that happened to me was Baywatch. Up until then, I played a wide variety of different characters. I was able to audition for quite a few things. Baywatch, it's sort of, at least in the beginning, the phone started ringing, stopped ringing so much. There was a little bit more of hesitation of being brought in for certain projects because you had this Baywatch bimbo, because that's what they were calling us when the show first came out. And kind of graduated to Baywatch babes. Now it's Baywatch icons, but it took, forever and a day to get there. So, there was a stigma for a while with it. And it was heartbreaking, to be honest. It was really, really heartbreaking, because for me getting involved with Baywatch, I thought that it was going to be, I really wanted to like play up the action side of things.
Yeah.
Like I didn't wear makeup and I let my hair be wet. I cut all my hair off before we started shooting because, I thought it would be easier to handle. And, I really kind of wanted to go for that side of it, but it wasn't perceived that way. No matter how hard you tried, it wasn't perceived that way. And today, if you look back, it's still heartbreaking. And the documentary touches on this a lot, the Baywatch documentary that we're doing, because really these women are heroes. It's like the one job where they're getting paid the same as men. It's the one job where they're equal as men. Women are out there saving men. And, they're just as tough. They're just as strong. So it's, and they happen to be gorgeous, all of them, but so are the men. They're gorgeous because of their physicality. I don't know what it is, the setting, all of it, but they're heroes. They really, really, truly are. And, that needs to be celebrated, not criticized.
Was that one fear of yours while you were doing the show, saying, if I want to work for a long time, or this is something I want to continue to do, that people are always going to think of me as being in this red bathing suit?
Well, I had been in the industry for, 15 years already and had a huge body of work. And then for I still to this day will kind of trip out when someone will say, like, I have an online commercial going and the comments will come in and it's from a sponsored account. And people will say, I saw someone say, like, who is that? And they'll say, oh, from Baywatch. Or people will say, oh, from Baywatch. And it's funny. It's great that they recognize you from that. But you're like, that was not even 2 years out of my 35, 40-year career. So it's just, it is what it is. People recognize you from different things. And that's why you do it. That's why you have a body of work, because you can be versatile. But at first it was disheartening to be called, a bimbo. That was like, oh, what? How is that?
Yeah, so. I 100% could see it. I went back and watched something the other day. I watched it on YouTube, and it was, be honest with you, knowing you, and at the same time, even before I knew you, I forgot about this interview until I saw it again last week, and it bothered me a lot. You know, it bothered me, I think, because I knew you. And then at the same time, I realized you were bullied and you were young. It was an interview you did on the Howard Stern show. And you had to be in your early 20s. And it felt like 9 people were ganging up on you. And I was just curious, how often does something like that happen where you feel like I'm not getting a chance to speak or show who I really am, show my personality, my being, and just people assume something about me and not really know anything about me?
Well, I did the Howard Stern show twice, so I'm not sure which one you're referring to. You know, the Howard Stern show is a different kind of entity, right? It was
Yeah.
unlike anything else. He was very trailblazing in that in your face media, shock value, shock factor, and all of that. So I kind of knew what I was going into. You know, listen, at that age, I didn't give a shit what anybody, I didn't give a shit. You know, you could say whatever you want. I was living nicely. You know, my life was good, you know. So I don't know. And men, you know, luckily times are changing and etiquette is changing, and there are
Yeah.
things that are appropriate to say and not to say. Back then it was a different time, and you know, there was a lot more of that. How shocking can your comment be? And that was cool. And so that was just sort of like a wave you had to ride out. And I don't know if men realize how unattractive that is when they talk like that to and about women. But, you know, it is what it is. And I would just leave that there. You know, it said more about the people talking than it does about me.
I agree. And I'm a Howard Stern fan, and he has changed a lot. He's admitted too that his show has changed, and he's matured. And at this point in his life, he interviews people, you know, he wants to interview, and he sounds like a completely different person. Where he says he cringes sometimes looking back at kind of the interviews that he did with you. I bet if he saw that interview, he would feel the same way. Going, you know, I have daughters too, and this isn't how you treat someone, but the reason I brought it up was we know you. We know how, you know, we talk about your mom and your dad, and we talk about your kids. And, you know, there are comments made where for me, there are certain things off limits. Kids, parents, family, you know, you asked for this lifestyle. You're the public figure. No one else in your family is a public figure. So from my outlook is that everyone else is off limits. When you're going to attack family and kids, you're crossing the line.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think you're crossing the line when you attack anybody. I don't think
Yeah.
because you love the art of acting that you should be open like just a sitting duck for people to take
Yeah.
shots at. I mean, you know, I always go back to this. Be a good human. Like, how about that? How about
Yeah.
just appreciating people for their differences and listening and embracing? And you don't have to agree with anything, but you also don't have to, you know, shoot, you know, fire off shots. Like, I don't know. I just could never see myself getting online and like, you know, attacking somebody. It's like, and just like, well, they asked for it because they're there, you know. No, it still says more about the person commenting than it does about the person. But yes, is it more fair to attack me and not the kids and not my family? Absolutely. Although I didn't ask for it either, did I? You know, I started
Good
at
point.
4 or 5 years old. So, but am I used to it? Sure. Can I take it? Absolutely. And it's not fair to anybody else. It's
Let
not.
me ask you. Let me ask you, just kind of going back to the acting part, because this is always one of those things that I watch for as someone, again, who loves television, loves movies. It's the crying. It's when someone cries on camera, and you always wonder, how do they do it? When someone is good, you go, oh my God, they're really crying. Like you could see the tears coming to their eyes. The one that bothers me is when the people don't have tears coming through and they aren't wiping their face.
It's fake.
And yeah, because I know I couldn't do it either. So my question to you is, what is the trick? How do some people, how are they able to do it? What's the trick to crying on camera?
Okay, well, let me just start. That's a creative decision that needs to be made. If the tears aren't coming, at some point they should change it, you know, because not everybody always cries when they're sad.
Yeah,
Other
that's
people,
true.
you know, internalize. So you can take it in a different direction that's more realistic. I think that every actor has a different way of going about it. I also think for myself, which is the only person I can speak for, is that different projects, it's different. When I was really little, this is so terrible, but I had to cry on a Fantasy Island episode. And the director was talking to me about, think about your dog getting hit by a car.
Oh my goodness.
And I did. And I was, bawling my eyes out. And then that stopped working. So then I was thinking about my parents, like death with my parents. It's like these horrible things. But as an adult and as you get older, a lot of times just being in the moment of the scene, I found that you relate. And if you're there, you'll cry because that's the emotion that's there and you're feeling. And as an adult, like I know you can relate to this, but being a parent, I can cry at a commercial. I can cry if you just say the wrong thing right now, I'll start crying. If you tell me how much you love your kid, I'll be in tears. So now it's more of like, how do you not cry?
Yeah.
How do you not cry at anything? Like, stop crying. Yeah, I'm a big crybaby.
I hate to say it, I'm the same way, and I wasn't always that way. My friends make fun of me now, but I used to make fun of anybody that would cry. If it was a buddy of mine that I grew up with and we played sports together, hey, you want me to go buy you a summer dress? Like I always said terrible things if they started crying. And then I found myself, being the guy that cried. And this is embarrassing as can be, but when my younger son was little, it was one of those nights where he couldn't sleep, and he was like 4 years old, and as a parent, you know what it's like to get up in the middle of the night, and I'm just sitting on the couch, and he's 3 inches from the TV, and he's watching Hilary Duff, where she's in that movie where she tries to become a singer in Italy and the whole deal. And I'm watching this movie. It's literally 4 a.m. and the song, That's What Dreams Are Made Of comes on, and she sings it in, and she proves everybody wrong, and the whole deal. And the movie ends, and my kid turns around and looks at me, and he goes, "Are you crying?" And I go, "I'm not crying." And then sure enough, I felt my cheeks, and they're all wet, and I'm crying. And he was like so disgusted that I cried. And I was like, I think it's because I'm tired. I can't believe I just cried because things worked out for Lizzie McGuire. And it was embarrassing as hell. And it's funny. My wife doesn't cry like I cry, but we went to go see the movie Stepmom. Okay. And do you remember this movie Stepmom with Susan Sarandon and Julia Roberts? And the story is, Julia Roberts is the second wife, and Susan Sarandon has cancer and she's going to die, and she needs Julia Roberts to raise her kids. And, I had little kids at the time, and I'm watching this movie, and Mike, I'm tearing up, and movie ends, and my wife's like, "Let's go." And I was like, "I can't walk out right now. I got to get it together." I can't do it. But it's embarrassing. But that's me. I'm with you. Commercials, especially kids. Anything with kids and dogs, man, I'm done.
Done. I know all the time. I know my little one. Are you crying? Are you crying? I am. I'm crying. And then sometimes, I don't know if you ever do this, although I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
They're crying too, the people on TV.
Yeah.
It happened the other night with American Idol. They're crying too, Keegan.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one.
I'm the same exact way. That is so funny. It's embarrassing as hell for me, but yeah, I'm a train wreck. I know when my son gets married, I'll be the guy crying, and when he has a kid one day, I'll be crying. This is just the way it is. It's just I'm not gonna fight it anymore. It's just the way it is.
Oh, it is. No, it is. It's better than not feeling. Let's be honest. Yeah.
It's the people that don't feel.
Yeah, and I'm past the stage of like being embarrassed about anything, So it's sort of like, yeah, whatever, I'm crying, deal with it. But
that is
part of life. Yeah, it's one of those things.
Okay, so the answer to the question was they tell you to think about something that's extremely sad to get it started. Is there any truth to the rumor that someone will like pull a hair out of their nose or rub pepper into their eye or something like that to make tears come?
I mean, they have these like they have this thing. It's like it's menthol, and you open your eye and they blow it into there's like menthol crystals in it, and they blow it, and it blows this minty vapor into your eyes. And for me, it dries my eyeballs out. It's like the worst thing ever. It just dries them out. So I guess actors do whatever works, but let's hope that they're in the moment enough that the tears are natural and that they're feeling what the character's feeling, so it's natural. That's how I
Okay,
think.
so all right, you brought up Fantasy Island, and I have a question for you because that's part of my childhood too. When I was a little kid, it's funny when I look back at it because everyone, has a babysitter till whatever age it is. But when I was like, no joke, 7, 8 years old, my parents would go out on a Saturday night and they'd just leave me. And so I would watch, every Saturday night was Love Boat, and then it was Fantasy Island afterwards. And so I'm watching the shows. And sometimes Fantasy Island had some stuff as a 7, 8 year old where I scared the hell out of me, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm in this house by myself. Something would happen on there. But so when you're on Fantasy Island, what is that experience like? Number one, where do they film it? And two, what was like Ricardo Montalban like?
Okay. Well, yeah, I was super excited, and all I cared about was this set and like, where is it? It was at Warner Brothers and the
Okay.
Warner Brothers Ranch. And like, remember the cars they used to drive in with like the striped like canopies, and that helicopter that like landed on the airplane that landed on the water?
Yep.
So I get to set, and I mean, it's like that movie magic experience, like where everything is fake, and you're
Yeah.
seeing it for
Yeah.
the first time. It was truly amazing. All the plants and the flowers, everything. Some of it's real with all the mixed in with the phony, like the dirt roads were these rubber mats that look like dirt.
How old were you at the time? Just for reference.
I did 2 episodes actually. Aaron Spelling put me on a couple of episodes of that. So I was at different ages, but definitely like 10 and under, I want to say,
Okay.
or like 12 and under, something like that, young. And it's like the airplane is next to this like little cutout of water, and so that you get the reflection, and like a little dock. But it's all facade. Most of it's shot inside in a studio. And Ricardo Montalban was like he was just like how he was on the show. Very like statuesque, gorgeous, super like elegant. He just had that suave vibe. He just was cool. And a funny story is that he's very cool like that. And everybody has cast chairs, and they're like those fold up director chairs.
Yeah.
And we're like backstage offset, it's in between takes, and he sits in his, and it collapses, like it wasn't properly put together, and it folds up on him, and he like goes down. And I am that person. Don't look at me when something happens, because I am going to laugh. And
Me too.
I laugh at myself too, so it's fair enough. I can't help it. I am that person. The first thing that comes out is a huge laugh. And my mom is looking at me like, shut up, and he handled it with grace, and he was fine. But, it was just like, it made him so human at that moment, because up until then, he didn't feel human. He felt superhuman. And then Hervé Villechaize, oh my gosh, he was like a little kid. And he was packing. Yeah, but he was packing heat. Like, he carried everywhere he went.
No way.
Yeah. And he would say to me, come on. And we'd like run around. We were running around the lot, running around the set, playing. And yeah, my mom let me go run off with a man with a gun. And I was living my best life, having the best time of my life on Fantasy Island set. Yeah, it was truly amazing. Like,
oh my gosh. Do you remember the storyline? What you were there for? Like, what was the storyline?
One of them, I was John Saxton, if you remember him. I played his daughter, and we went there. I believe his fantasy was to like win big. He was a gambler.
Okay.
I think his fantasy was to win big, and my fantasy was for him to quit gambling, if memory serves me correctly. And then the other one was, I was somehow Mr. Rourke's long lost daughter. And I don't know if I was there to try to find my father. I don't really know. But I know it was like somehow his long lost daughter.
Okay. That's cool though. To say you were on Fantasy Island to me is awesome.
Oh yeah.
There's so many shows that, again, they were my babysitter. So I always thought that is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of my favorite shows growing up, and I know they did a reboot and you were on it, but it was Battle of the Network Stars. And I
Oh,
always thought Battle of the Network Stars was cool. I was like, oh my gosh, everyone in one place at the same time. And didn't realize till years later that they filmed the thing at Pepperdine University and the whole setup. But it was always fun to me. I mean, I hate to say it, I'm that guy that can tell you what was on every single night of the week. So I knew on Friday nights it was Dukes of Hazzard and Incredible Hulk, and I'm watching that, and I always couldn't figure out as a kid, how's Lou Ferrigno, the Hulk, on one side of that rope and everyone else over there, and Lou Ferrigno can't win this thing. But I was certain things. But when I go back and look at those shows now, because you can find them on YouTube, when I go back and look at those shows now, I didn't realize basically the way they set up the women, whether it was Linda Carter or it was Catherine Bach, whatever, you can like see through the bathing suits. And I'm like, this is on network TV, and thinking nowadays there's no way this thing is going on there the way it was before. With it seemed like Howard Cosell and every announcer on there was a big perv,
yeah.
But
And I heard stories when I did it. I heard stories that there was a lot of drinking and a lot of coke going on in those sets back in the day.
wow.
So I think it was a big party.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. They were all there at the same time. When
Yeah.
you ended up doing Battle of the Network Stars, was it what you remembered as a kid? Was it what you thought, or was it like this is a pain in the ass?
No, you know what? I always do these things because I'm always up for an adventure like that.
Cool.
For me, that's fun. I love physical challenges and doing stuff like that. So to me, it was a good time. And I was a little bit younger. I didn't watch it that much. It wasn't a big show that I watched a lot, but of course I knew of it. So I was just excited to see what it was all about.
Yeah.
That's always a fun time to go and see
Yeah.
what it's all about, and to spend the day at Pepperdine overlooking the ocean,
Beautiful.
with a bunch of peers, doing physical challenges. To me, that's a great day.
It was. It was. It was always cool to watch on TV. I was wondering what people thought who didn't live in California when they're looking at the view from Pepperdine might be the best view, going. It's
Oh
just
my
absolutely
God.
amazing. Just
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. Just as curious, as a kid, what were your favorite shows? What were your go-to shows that you said, okay, every week I got to catch this show?
I Love Lucy, the Brady Bunch. I loved Love Boat. Love Boat was a good one. Fantasy Island. There wasn't a lot of time for TV, but I think it's the Partridge Family sometimes.
Yeah.
But Laverne and Shirley was a big one. I Love Lucy. I mean, that was my number one. That was my.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Lucille Ball? Did you get a chance to meet any of these people? No.
No.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, I was curious to know, as someone that's on television and movies, are there people that you look up to that you say, you know what, that was an inspiration in my life, for someone that I was a huge fan of? That have you ever met anyone where you were kind of awestruck?
Well, Ricardo Montalban, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Like I was on TJ Hooker for a while, so to work with William Shatner was like pretty amazing.
What was that like?
He was great.
Good.
He was great. He was great until they recast the kids, because he didn't want kids that old. Like we grew up.
That's funny.
And then he wanted them cast again as younger younger people. But then, there was like people like Hal Holbrook that I worked with that, my mom would tell me and explain to me like who these people are. And so then I would, look at them differently and, kind of try to observe. Also, Cheryl Ladd was a big one because I was a huge Charlie's Angels fan. So that's another show. I love Charlie's Angels. So working with her was amazing. And
was she great?
Huh?
Was she great? Was she great to work with? Oh, that's
really,
cool.
Really great lady. And we kept in touch for quite a while after. She actually took me, she has a daughter about a year younger than I. And they were shooting Charlie's Angels on location in the Virgin Islands. So she packed me up with them, and we went out there and had a great time. So much fun. So like two things: I got to be at the Virgin Islands, and I got to watch Charlie's Angels being shot. his life. Yeah.
That is cool. As a
Yeah.
kid in living in Los Angeles for me, okay, someone on the outside who's just a fan of the shows, when we'd see a celebrity and we'd, want to say, hey, you're so and so, it was always disappointing if they weren't receptive. Now I understand we're, 10, 12-year-old kids running around saying, hey, but when they weren't cool, it was disappointing. If they were cool, we were fans for life. And so, I mean, as simple as this one goes, I think it was Suzanne Summers, then I can't remember the second girl, then it was Priscilla Barnes on Three's Company. And I remember seeing her in Beverly Hills, and my buddy and I went up to her, and she couldn't have been not nice. How's that?
Oh,
And it was disappointing going, what the hell? You're just saying, hey, you're a fan. Now, I understand people don't want to be bothered, but when you're a little kid, you don't understand that people don't want to be bothered. And so I was just curious to know, for you, if somebody recognizes you, let's say on the street or you're in a restaurant, how do you handle it?
well, ideally, I like to be very friendly, but I'm a human being also. So if it happens to be a bad day,
Yeah.
Everybody should be allowed their. And it's like for Priscilla, I've met her and I have a great experience with her. Maybe she had bad news that day. Maybe it was just a really tough day, or maybe she was going through a period in her time where she didn't want to be bothered. I don't know. I truly want to believe that not everybody's the same all the time.
Yeah.
Some days super outgoing, and some days I don't want to talk to anybody. I would never be intentionally rude to anybody that recognized me or not, or that just asked me a simple question, or were to ask me for a picture or anything like that. I don't want to be rude to anybody in life, but I think you have to give some kind of leniency to maybe you don't know what happened that day.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on in someone's life. But for the most part, it's nice. It's great, and people are excited to see you. Like that's the best feeling in the world.
That's true. When people recognize you and appreciate your work, it is. Do you ever feel like, let's say when you were on Baywatch and it was the most popular show on TV, that you feel like even when I'm not working, I always have to be on? Like everybody wants to be able to turn it off. Where you feel like, man, every time I leave the house, I feel like I have to be on.
Yes. So when I was a teenager, I had a really hard time with that because I was like, the thing is that everybody's looking, whether they're saying hi to you or not, they're looking at you and they're watching you. So to just be a regular asshole teenager was really difficult. I just couldn't be. I couldn't get away with anything like that because everybody's watching. And, teenage years can be really awkward. They can be tough and awkward. So that was hard. And then sort of like I had my youngest daughter, later. I was 40. And I got really ill after that pregnancy. And we didn't know really what was going on in my body, but I was not healthy and I was not my body was having a bad reaction. And so the media, all they want to do is get pictures of you because they know you're struggling and there's something going on. And I wasn't open about my health issues and, my medical problems. I just kind of wanted to figure out what was going on in my own life quietly. And they don't let that happen. And so they'll take pictures right after you've had a baby. You're with your trainer, working your ass off, trying to lose the weight, trying to get healthy mentally, physically, all of that emotionally. And they will snap 100 photos of you and then they last for 10 years. They use those same photos over and over and over again. So people think that you're still like that or you're like that. Luckily, we were able to get a handle on what was wrong with me. And it's taken some time to find the right formula that works for me to get myself back. But I've been healthy again for a number of years, but they're not going to report on that. Nobody ever wants to see that. Nobody checks in. Well, let me go look at her social media and see really what she is doing right now, and they just like to circulate old pictures of, and this is what you look like. And then they like to take a picture. You've just given birth. You're sweating. You're struggling. You're working out. Your trainer's screaming at you. They take a picture and then they want to post it next to a picture of you when you're 19 years old, fully made up, on set with good lighting in a bikini. And they want to post them side by side. You're like, okay, that's been 30 years. I'm in a different spot right now, so it's like, everybody, life goes like this for everybody. It's a roller coaster ride, and you can't compare, and you can't necessarily hold people accountable for one moment of one day. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly right.
That goes for everybody, not just celebrities. Obviously, it goes for
Everybody.
everybody.
Yep,
Hopefully, we're
absolutely
always
true.
ever evolving and growing and learning, and I hope that never stops. But so I don't think that you can say, I know that person, or this person is like this or like that, because I think that everybody changes every day, hopefully.
I agree with you. I agree. And I think a lot of people that say, whatever, if it's something negative, I mean, hell, I get it just from being a sports guy, and people don't like the teams that I root for. And I come to the point where I won't respond if it's, Eddie 86789. If they won't put their name on there, I'm not going to respond.
And
And if
it's a
they're willing to
picture of a
put
cat or a dog, right? It's
yeah,
always a picture of a
yeah,
cat or a dog or a sports team. It's never their face. It's never their
ex-
name.
ex- exactly right. And I've come to realize that a lot of the people who say the negative things, they're the ones who are really struggling in life. They'll DM me and tell me, hey, unfortunately I'm suicidal, or this has happened to me, and my mom passed, or I lost my job. And then you realize they have a lot going on. So they just start lashing out. And so when someone says something negative, you realize a lot of times that they aren't completely a jerk all the time. It's for some reason they make themselves feel better by something negative, saying something negative to you, me, anybody else. But it is disappointing. You always hope people are maturing and basically getting better as human beings.
Yeah.
Nicole, we have the mailbag. Okay. And again, your opportunity to ask Nicole questions. Again, all you have to do is go to perfectlytwistedpod.com. You'll see Nicole's mailbag right there on the site. And I grab a couple questions out of here, and we're going to throw them at you right now, Nicole. Here we go. This is from Caitlin Ramsey. As an actress and human being, I'm
Hi,
sorry.
Caitlin. I should wrote in before. I think I answered one of her questions before. Hi, Caitlin.
Okay. As an actress and human being, is it hard to separate set kid and private life?
Sometimes. Yes, sometimes it was. A lot of times kids, as kids, you're really resilient, and you kind of go wherever you're led, and you just try to have a good time wherever you are. That's sort of the beauty and the innocence of youth, I think. So it was, I'll tell you what was a little bit hard is growing up in Huntington Beach and Hollywood, and then trying to go home to Huntington Beach and talk about like what your week was like, where all your friends, they went to school every day, and like they had their own struggles and their own bullshit that they dealt with in school. And, I'm trying to talk about like what's happening on set, and you kind of can't relate to each other in that sense. So as far as that goes, that was tough. But, I think kids are out to have fun. You don't know the real pressures of life yet when you're a kid, right? It's still about like, what's next? What's a good time? How do we have fun? So as long as you're around good kids, you have a good time.
Did you run into jealousy? This is my question, not hers. Did you run into jealousy from, basically being on TV and look like you're living a great life, and then going back to Huntington Beach with your friends in the neighborhood?
Not really. No, I think for the most part, my friends were, I mean, of course, there's one or two here or there, just like with anything. But no, and still to this day, some of those friends are the first ones to be like, "Yay!" When I post about a project, or they're there, they're still supportive and sort of keep me up to date with what's going on. And no, not at all. I think you get this sense of like proud when somebody's from your hometown, right?
Yeah.
Like from your school and from your hometown, and you cheerlead people. So no, I always got a lot of support, and they were always very kind to invite me out with them, because I'd be gone all week working, and then the weekends you come back and you're kind of like, what's going on? And teenagers and kids can be cliquey, and they hang out with their little groups and their age, their grade, and that sort of thing. And they were always really welcoming to let me just jump right in on the weekends to go to the parties and all of that, though. So no, that was a good time.
Fantastic. All right, I grabbed 3 of them from Caitlin. We're going to fire through these as well. If you
Okay.
could vacation anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Oh, You know, it's so funny because like I've been to so many places and there's places I really would want to go back to, but then there's so many places in the world I haven't been. But I think I would definitely, my first top of my list would be to pack both my kids up and head over to Asia. And here's a problem with me is I go somewhere and I tend to not come back for quite a while because I will look at the map and go, oh, but I'm so close to this place. Oh, I'm so close to that place. Oh, let me extend my trip. I remember so I would go in Thailand. We would go crazy in Thailand and spend a whole bunch of time there. Both my kids want to go there really bad, as do I. And I think that we would have a hard time coming back. We really would. I went to Germany one time to do an interview, and I got paid in cash. And this security guy brings this big, huge duffel bag full of cash to me in my room. And I'm like, what the hell do I do with this? Like, and luckily I was with my daughter's father. So I was with a man and I was like, okay, I feel a little bit more safe, I guess. And we're looking at each other and we're like, what are they going to like let us travel with this? How do we do this? And I was like, we're really close to Italy. I was like, why don't we just go to Italy and just travel around till it's all gone? And then we don't have to worry about traveling with it.
Oh, that's funny. I like it. I like it.
We were lost in Italy for months, and it was such a good time. It was such a good time.
All right, one more from Caitlin. If Baywatch were ever to be picked up, would you be in? And if so, what would you like to see for your character?
Oh, okay. Would I be in? It would depend. It would depend who's doing it. Who's creatively doing it. For my character, I think Summer would have kids that were now lifeguards. And I would like to think that maybe she is running some sort of like really successful restaurant in her mom's legacy. Because remember, they moved out to California in a trailer and they'd never seen the ocean. And the mom started like a burger stand on the beach and she was always struggling to keep it open. So I think that it would be like a great homage to her mom that she finally got like a really successful restaurant going and her kids were lifeguards and she was, donating and running charities and helping all the lifeguards out and doing well. Cause I think Summer was a good egg and she was a good person. So I think that could work.
Love it. All right. This is from Brad Yeats. It's also a Baywatch question. Did you feel pressure by the producers on Baywatch to maintain certain body weight? And did they ever encourage unhealthy goals to keep the image of a lifeguard body type?
Girl, they had it in the contract that you could not fluctuate in weight by 5 pounds, really? Up or down. They wanted you to stay exactly where they hired you. I was 19, so it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
It wasn't an issue, luckily. And no, nothing was ever pushed on me as far as weight goes. And, I was curvier back in the late 80s and early 90s. I was considered curvy. I look back at it and I go, what, where? But I was one of the curvier ones. So they probably did have their eye on me, but I never felt any horrible pressure for that. And in fact, we did a storyline where my character had an eating disorder for like 5 minutes, but she had an eating disorder. And, nothing ever like carried out. It just sort of magically disappeared. So they did address it. They did sort of in their way, address the issue of being healthy and healthy eating.
All right, this is Brad as well. Are you still in contact with the actors who played your siblings on Charles in Charge?
Oh, that's a tough one. Social media makes it easier to stay in touch with people. That's like one of the positive things of social media, right? Like you can keep up with everybody. This is a tough one because Alexander Polinsky and I both came forward and spoke about abuse we endured while being on that set. And, we had a lot of healing to do. There was a lot of crying going on at that time when we reconnected because, he was very young. And so there was a lot of hard feelings and abandonment from all of us to him on that set. And I was able to apologize to him for my part in that. But I was a child as well and going through my own, horrible nightmare. So, there was resentment, rightfully so. And, we have been able to come to a place where we understand each other better and we understand what we all went through and how we got to where we are and how to deal with it and, on a healing journey and all of that. And then as far as Josie goes, my mom always taught me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. She's not my kind of people, but, wish her well and all of that stuff.
How old was Alexander on that show? Like when you were doing that show, how old was he?
Listen, he was young. If I was like 13 when we started. So he had to be 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
He was very little. It's a little child.
Yeah. I've heard people say when you get done with a television show or a movie that it is tough, at least at the beginning, if it's one of your first, basically roles, that's your family and all of a sudden your family disappears. And it's just, human nature to, sure, it's a job, but to go, wait a second, these are the people that I would spend so much time with. And all of a sudden they're out of my life and there wasn't a death. They're just out of my life. I could see, from a child, from an adult, how you do get attached with the people you're around every single day.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because some years ago when I was like doing a lot of work on myself, I kind of wondered, like, I always like change.
Yeah.
I can pack up and move and be anywhere. I could drive to a hotel right now somewhere and I could just move in and just live there. Like I have no attachment to anything and quite commitment phobic. My oldest daughter will make fun of me about it all of the time. Cause like I said, I bought something and like I said, I asked her if she liked it or whatever. And she was like, well, I see the tag still on it, commitment phobe, so it's like, it's quite obvious to everybody around me. But I think that that's sort of it, right? You're very close. You work very tightly with this group of people and you share so much and so much time and then it ends. And then you're on to a new set of people. And so for me, because I always consistently worked and moved and kept it moving, I was always tight with this group of people and then moved on and on. And so I didn't really feel like the emptiness, but I could imagine that if that just ends and then you don't go on to, be a part of another show or something like that, it can be very strange. And then it's sort of like, you're back just into regular life and like, where do you fit in? Where do you, how do you get in? Where do you fit in? So I think that would take some adjustment for sure. But yes, you become very close with a group of people and then poof, it's gone. And a lot of times you work with people over and over, which is always nice too. So sometimes you have this reoccurring, work relationship, but that's a fact. That's a real issue that we all deal with.
I know I was supposed to ask you 5 questions, but I have a 6th one for you. This is from Kyle Meredith. What's your thoughts, memories on the movie Blown Away with the Coreys? I was 13 when the movie came out. I was an instant fan of yours, and you were my first celebrity crush.
Okay, why did your parents let you watch this at 13?
Maybe they're like my parents. They just took off for the night, and I was stuck at home. But it was one of those.
No, I know. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I guess 13. I get asked that a lot, and that movie is there's a lot of good and bad that come with that movie. I was just talking about it recently. There was a lot of darkness on that set, and there was a lot of I don't know how to say this. There was we ended up being there a lot longer than expected because of some of the turmoil some of the actors were going through. And some of it was taken, some of the scenes and stuff like that was taken a little bit farther than I think it was supposed to go, because not necessarily everybody was in their right mind, in their right state of mind during shooting. But it was fun. I got to shoot guns. I got to die. I got to fall out of a window. I got to ride horses, drive a Porsche.
Wow.
So there was a lot of really fun times. We shot in Canada, which I love Canada. So I got to spend a lot of time there, which is always nice. And people loved it. It was well received. It has like a cult following. People still talk about it to this day. They ask me about it. So I was also in a place where I was coming off a Charles in Charge. I wasn't dealing with the trauma I had just gone through. I think I was sort of in this rebellious place in my life of, I'm going to do something that's, all the way left of everything else I've been doing. Because in that same time period, I shot a film called Just One of the Boys, also with Corey Haim, that we shot right after, and totally wholesome, totally clean, different kind of movie. But these were coming of age teen movies for people our age. So there was something neat about that and sort of freeing about that. And, when you're an actor, sometimes your bad behavior gets caught on film, and your bad choices are there forever. It's not
yeah,
it goes away. You don't always make all the right decisions when you're young. So I live with no regrets whatsoever. And, it's a wild movie. It's definitely, risque, and I wouldn't let my kids watch it, but I did get a lot of fans from that movie. So, it is what it is, and it was fun to make. So
what do you think when someone like Kyle says you were my first celebrity crush? Is that one of those a compliment, or how do you feel?
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
I mean, hell, you were my first celebrity crush too, so I have nothing to say. So, yeah, that's why I say you good. Now, Kyle and I both feel good that you said it was sweet.
Yeah, no, it's nice because I didn't really get to experience that a lot at that age. When you're not in school and you're not around, a bunch of kids your own age, you don't necessarily get the crushes and the people crushing on you, and you don't get all of that. So, to hear it, it's it feels good. Yeah, it makes you feel good.
All right, now I'm curious, when they told you, hey, we want you to take pictures for a poster, what went through your mind when they said, hey, Nicole, there's going to be a poster of you, and people are going to buy this poster, and they're going to put it in their locker at school, or they're going to put it on their wall at home, or whatever. What went through your mind? How did you take that? For me, I would think that'd be cool as can be, because posters were a big deal back in the day.
Yeah, they were a really big deal. I thought it was really fun, and I did a couple of them, and they were kind of like what everybody calls now a side hustle. You made a lot of money doing these things.
Yeah.
I was excited about doing the posters. I'll tell you what I wasn't excited about, and I absolutely said no to, is everybody was doing pop songs, and everybody was singing and making records.
Right.
And they were making a lot of money at it. And I was and they would come to me with these record deals. And I was like, are you crazy? You have no idea what I sound like singing. Yeah. It's nothing anybody wants to hear. This is absolutely a no. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We have this auto tune. We put you in the studio. And I'm thinking to myself, everybody's like, you really should do this. Everybody's doing it. You really should do this. And I thought, I could do this and fake it, and they can fix my voice, and I'll make all this money. At some point, somebody's going to ask me to perform live. Yeah. At some point, and I'm going to look like the asshole. What a jerk. What a jerk off. And so that was my first, nope, because I can never do a live performance.
Good for you.
And then the second part was I would listen to the songs they would want me to sing. And I always have been so influenced by music. And I love good music. And I've never been a huge fan of pop music. Yeah. At that time I was in, I was into The Cure and Depeche Mode, to Beastie Boys, Murphy's Law. I listened to a little bit edgier kind of music. Yeah. And I was I don't even like, on top of it, I'm not even going to want to listen to the song. This is a hard pass. But those offers would come in all the time in the 80s. And then the 90s, it was sex tapes, right? You know,
Yeah.
Coming to you, want to do a sex tape? No, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
I remember back in the day when we talked about posters, you'd walk into like Spencer Gifts in the mall and you just flip through the posters, you know, and you go through and then boom, you're there. And then you look down for the number and you match and you take the poster and you could pay the $4 or whatever the hell it was. But there's always a running joke with my friends that call, they're going to laugh when they see this on the show. But I put your poster up in my room. You're the first girl I ever put up on the wall. And a buddy of mine walks in the room and he goes, man, she's a lot taller than I thought. And I looked at him. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I go, it's because I put the poster this tall. And every time we see this guy now is 50 years old. And every time we see Bill, man, Nicole's a lot taller than you thought, huh? And it's always that running joke. Like it's the dumbest thing of all time, but it is the stupidest, funny thing that we laugh about all the time, that I put the poster at a certain height on the wall. And his line was, she's a lot taller than I thought.
Bill? His name's Bill?
Yeah, it was Bill. Yeah.
Okay, Bill, you know, what makes this even more funny is that I am the shortest person you probably will ever meet.
You're 5'10" on the wall.
I'm 5'10" on the wall and on your TV screen. But whenever I meet people in person, they go, I didn't realize you were so tiny. And I'm like, so funny. But then if you watch it, you see David Hasselhoff like up here, and here I am. It's like, well, then how tall is he? But people don't, you don't perceive height and weight that much when you're watching people on TV. You just don't know. Of course. Then I walk in 5'2". It's like,
that is so funny. That is so funny.
No, I'm really short.
Oh my God, Bill's gonna be so pissed that I just brought this up on the show. Anyway, my other friends are gonna die laughing. Nicole, we've gone even longer than I thought we'd go, but again, if you want to write a question for Nicole, we will read it on there. Again, it's easy. Just go to the mailbag part on perfectlytwistedpod.com. I will pull questions and then we'll throw them at Nicole. But we do appreciate everyone that is interactive. We want to make the show as interactive as possible. I know next week we're aiming for a guest. We had a bunch of people that sent in requests to say, hey, you know what, we'd like to see you interview this person. If there's someone that you want to see Nicole talk to, go ahead and send those in as well. This is supposed to be an interactive show. Nicole's been great with her time, and she's honestly said, hey, let's get the audience involved as much as possible. So that's what we want to do. But again, fantastic job. There's a lot of fun for me always.
Yeah, fun for me too. And thanks for joining, guys. And definitely subscribe to us. Check out the website, perfectlytwistedpod.com, and across all social media, Perfectly Twisted. And we will see you again next week.